Hello all and welcome, and I am the MGTOW philosopher, and in this video I would like to talk about a new Amsterdam law that will criminalize the act of unsuccessfully flirting with women in public. Now, what does unsuccessfully mean? Well, of course it means if a woman doesn't want you to flirt with her, then she can send you to jail, but if you're good looking, okay, you get a pass. Now, of course, these two mediocre-looking broads are typical of the women who think they are so hot and all that and a bag of chips that you are too lowly to speak to them. And what are they, maybe sixes? Maybe. 5.5 on the left, the one on the right's a 6, maybe. Yeah, they're not all that hot, but they think they are, and they think they're so special and wonderful that you can't talk to them. Unless you're a good-looking guy, of course, then you can. Yeah, this is very similar to what's going on in France right now, where they're going to be making it illegal to catcall, whistle, ask women for phone numbers, calling it street harassment, and it'll be possible for women to, at a later date, even months later after the incident, go to the police and report it. So essentially meaning no witnesses required, they could just make it up. You don't even need to have a police officer witness it or something. And of course, this is just a way for lawyers to make more money because you create more laws, you create more lawbreakers, and then essentially you're making more business for lawyers. And this is absurd, of course. It just weaponizes women. It makes it less likely for men to even approach women, even in bars, because, of course, we're talking public spaces here, outside spaces, any space, doesn't matter what place, what venue, you are not allowed to go up to and talk to, harass a woman, which essentially would mean speak to them, without fear of going to jail. Even could happen at a bar, even could happen in a nightclub where you would think things like that would be acceptable. Nope. If she don't like it, you can't do it. She has all the power, you have none. And essentially all these kind of laws do is weaponize women against men and give them so much power to destroy us. And of course, women, being the childish little things they are, they're so childish. And they have no ability to think abstractly. They don't think about the long-term consequences. They just love having all this power. Of course, they're children. So let's see what this has to say, shall we? New Amsterdam law criminalizes the act of unsuccessfully flirting with women in public. Yes, of course it does. Amsterdam, the largest city in the Netherlands and once a mecca for those interested in pot and prostitution. Yeah, you would think it's an open-minded, loose place. You thought wrong. Isn't the process of criminalizing men approaching women? Of course, women approaching men is perfectly fine. They just never do it, of course, so you know, that doesn't need to be made illegal. If women approach men as well, then, of course, they would be trying to pass a law to make that illegal, too, in the name of so-called equality. But, of course, we know that women never approach men, and this is all about stopping men and women from getting together so that European countries can all die off, and we can replace everybody with low IQ Neanderthal morons from Middle Eastern and African countries who are very stupid, who will be good debt slaves. I see. Interesting. Though the Netherlands has enjoyed a reputation as a liberal country, says the social justice warrior extremism of Scandinavia, this might be about to change. The new laws, yeah, they're definitely very SJW there, no question. The new laws in Amsterdam are aimed at male actions that frighten women. Well, that's a very broad general term, frighten women. According to one of the lawmakers responsible, of course a feminist, this lawmaker is an idiot, a puppet, a shill for the global elites. This kind of highly subjective test in an age where women write 2,000-word diatribes on man-spreading on public transportation is ripe for abuse and overuse. You think? Kind of like the always believe her narrative in terms of rape. Now, I made a video about this called the always believe her narrative. I suggest you watch it. Find it in my video library. It talks about this same thing essentially only with rape accusations, where essentially if you give women the power, they will abuse it. If the possibility is there for abuse and it doesn't have oversight to make sure that women don't abuse it, and of course, what kind of oversight can you have? I mean, you can't have some cop following a woman around all day to make sure that she doesn't abuse it. So she just runs into some guy, she feels uncomfortable, or she doesn't like the guy at work, or she doesn't like somebody, just go report him to the police, even if he didn't do anything. And by the way, I was asking a woman for her phone number doing something wrong. Well, it's not wrong if you're Brad Pitt, but if you're some average guy, yeah, it's wrong. This is the mentality of women. So essentially, We want to keep the ugly guys away that we don't like, but we want the attractive guys to, approach us. And they think that all men are just going to realize this. And by the way, this isn't going to be the case because you got some feminists, some wacky broads, some broads that don't want any men approaching them. So no men are going to approach women with a stupid law like this. In Rotterdam, the Netherlands' second city, large fines and even jail time await a man who catcalls or bothers women in any way. Jail time just for asking for a phone number? I mean, it's clear that the global elites, they want to depopulate white people. Obviously, because that's the effect this is having. And by the way, the feminism that is just running rampant in Europe and these countries is already taking effect because their birth rates are well below repopulation levels. So they're already dying off anyway. So this is just another initiative to push that along even quicker. The test is also painfully subjective. Well, of course, it's a feminist test. Everything with them is subjective and shows no indication that we'll rely on proper evidence, only that he said, she said calculations. Of course, she's a woman and you're a second-class citizen, so she'll always be believed because you have to believe her because if you don't believe her, it'll hurt her feelings. Interesting. Already capable of sending men to prison for decades after poorly argued rape accusations. Well, there you go. You start with the rape, always believe her narrative. That was a test case scenario. Let's push this always believe her bullshit and see how well it works. So you push all these new laws that make women more believable. You believe women, believe them. It make it easier to accuse a man of rape and get him put in prison. And lo and behold, a lot more men are getting put in prison and accused of rape. Gee. And nobody thought to themselves, women are kind of abusing this. Well, nobody's looking. People ain't looking close enough. Clearly. As I brought you last year, the English city of Nottingham now defines unwanted male approaches of women as a hate crime. Well, you're certainly going to make men hate women a lot more doing shit like this, that's for sure. But I don't know how approaching women hoping to get their phone numbers so you can lay them is a hate crime. Very interesting. Well, it's only a hate crime if they don't want you to approach them, of course. Except many more cities, if not entire legal jurisdictions, will follow suit. Totalitarian lawmakers will use different words and legal formulas to criminalize men approaching women, but the intentions and many of the pernicious results will be the same. Yes, of course. Oh, I like this picture. And then a guy in the street who wasn't Brad Pitt said, "Your dresses looks nice." This is wonderful. I love it. Feminists are so strong and they're so equal to men that they need men to protect them. So this is just proxy white knighting of the government, just like they don't need men, but they essentially make the state into the husband and he becomes the man. So they always need some man to protect them and provide for them. Yeah, right. But really, women were never this weak before feminism. Women didn't have these kind of issues. Women didn't complain like this. Women were not infantilized like this. Women back in the 1940s and 1950s, you didn't hear them complaining about this shit and asking for laws to be passed that would essentially criminalize it because women back then, they liked men. They wanted a man. They wanted to be taken care of by a man. They didn't want to make it so difficult for a man to approach them that no men and women would get together and have kids ever, which is essentially all these laws are going to do. Well before the latest developments in Amsterdam and Rotterdam, has the website Return of Kings has repeatedly poked holes in the idea that women are ubiquitously harassed, not to mention sexually assaulted in public. Given the prevalence of CCTV surveillance in the West, most especially in the United Kingdoms, we have criticized the complete paucity of objective evidence demonstrating either street harassment or sexual assault, which, by the way, I could care less if you do talk to a woman and get her phone number. That's not a crime, and it shouldn't be a crime. I would go up and, if this was made illegal in my country, I would do it just so I could get arrested and I could challenge it and take it all the way to the motherfucking Supreme Court and have the law thrown out. This is utter horse shit. At best, the approach bans being implemented in Nottingham, Amsterdam, and other cities as a result of largely self-serving anecdotal evidence, which conveniently portray women's female complaints as the subject of constant desire on the part of men. Yet this is poorly written. Okay, this is poorly written. There's a lot of spelling errors in here. So essentially, constant sexual desire on the part of men. So women need to be protected from the sexual deviancy of men. We are just walking testosterone vessels. We're just boiling over with the desire to rape and assault and destroy women. Well, no, but passing laws like this certainly doesn't help. I mean, if you want to make men dislike women and more likely to assault them, yeah, just continue to make it less and less possible to get with women. See what the results are. In London, for example, the realization of one aging Game of Thrones actress, Suad Ferris, that she had hit the wall, one far older, higher, and stronger than the one manned by the Night's Watch, probably led to the most ridiculous false rape accusation of all time. Just as we want economic forecasts to be based on verifiable proof, so too must we have hard data on the level of supposed street harassment. We don't even need, hard data. I don't give a shit if women get harassed on the street. Studies have shown that men get harassed more than women, especially good-looking men. So what the let's be honest here. Ugly women are not getting harassed, okay? Mediocre-looking women and hot chicks are getting harassed, okay? So most of this is being pushed by essentially big, fat, ugly women. Now, of course, mediocre women getting harassed didn't used to be a problem until you got feminism involved, and now women are essentially staying away from mediocre men, and they only want the top 20%. So there's less and less women who are giving it up and being with the mid-level men that women don't seem to want, who are the ones they don't want catcalling, harassing them on the street in the first place. You see where I'm going with this? So this harassment, catcalling bullshit is just a reflection of women's hypergamy. It's just a reflection of the fact that women have become so picky, so choosy, that they only want the top echelon of men, and they want all others to leave them alone. And now more and more women are men are bothering them on the street, which they don't like, of course, because they only want the really good-looking, hot-looking guys. Where before, 50 years ago, they wanted more and more women, more and more men to be harassing them, to be catcalling them, because they would actually deign to speak to, go out with, and marry these men. Where now, of course, oh no, you're not good enough for me. And of course, women's standards have become higher and higher. And actually, these men are good enough for you, and some of them are better than you. But you think you're all that in a bag of motherfucking chips because of goddamn feminism that has empowered you. So, oh no, can't have this slug talking to me. Yeah. This is just another example of every man is a potential target. I need feminism because all men are rapists. Look at her. I mean, she's got fat hips. You can barely see between her legs. I mean, the thighs are touching up there at the top. And women have wider hips than men for purposes of childbirth. So this bitch is a pig. She's carrying about 15, 20 extra pounds, a little bit extra junk in the trunk there. So she's not that attractive either. So, of course, she's one of the women I was talking about who 50 years ago, a plumber or a mechanic could have walked up to her and said, hey, how you doing, honey? Get your number? And she would have been like, tee-hee-hee. But, of course, now she's too good for them. She needs that top 20% guy who only wants the 9s and the 10s. So you are in no way good enough for her. Even for seasoned students and teachers of game, not every approach leads to a number of dates, let alone some bed warming soon after. This website is a PUA site. I just clicked on the story because I thought it was interesting and that their coverage of it was amusing. And by the way, I thought this graph was interesting too. Look at this. The proposals show how rare actual rape and sexual assault is. So take a look at this graph, okay? So in 1973, it was about 2.5 people per 1,000 that were raped. That's not very low, but that's certainly not high. But it does seem high to me, a little high, yeah. But you go to 2003, it's like 0.5. It's 0.5. 0.5 out of 1,000 persons is not a lot. That's extremely low. Extremely low. Of course, yes, the recent, of course, we don't know what it is now, and they're not checking. They're not going to tell you. Now it's probably 20 in 1,000 with all the fucking Muslims, especially in Sweden, which has become the rape capital of Europe. That the police in a place like Rotterdam will have to chase men who catcall is a testament to the fact that rape has fallen to historic lows across the Western world. Yeah, cops got nothing to do. The cops have nothing to do. I mean, good Lord, if they had something to do, they probably want this too, because that gives them more to do, and you're not going to have cops getting laid off and losing their jobs. But this is really ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. Now, perpetrators could be tracked, possibly by using plainclothes police officers, he said. Cameras should be installed in places where there are a lot of problems and extra police checks carried out. Can you believe this? So they're going to be installing CCTV cameras so that they can essentially monitor, track, and follow a guy who whistles at a woman. Are you reading this? Crazy shit going on in Europe right now. Crazy. So let me know what you think about this nonsense of making cat calls, whistling, and asking women for their phone numbers, or just complimenting her dress as something that should be illegal. And let me know what you think in the comments section. And also, hit me with a like and a subscribe if you could, if you like the content. And check out my Patreon link in the description if you'd like to donate. So I am the MGTOW Philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.